Jesus understands your story and wants to help you develop empathy for others' stories. This is an instant message. What's going on? I'm Alex. I'm actually one of the leaders here, and welcome to F1oRoneTV. We're actually a team of students, creatives, and youth pastors that just want to make videos for you guys. We hope that when you come to our channel, you'll be challenged, you'll be encouraged, and hopefully inspired. Now first, I want to say hello to those of you who've been watching our content week after week. But if you're new here, hit the subscribe button right now. Now you as students all have one thing in common. You all want to be seen, you want to be known and valued for who you are. You don't want fake relationships, you want personal ones. Now in this series, we're actually going to be looking at 5 specific questions you can ask to make those relationships in your lives a whole lot real and a lot more personal. Now, how do we know we can make this happen? Well, because we're actually taking a tip from the way Jesus did it. And to give you an idea of just how to make everything, including your relationship with Him, a little more personal.
Hey, I'm Christian, and when I was in high school, I kind of messed up. It was really dumb. In fact, it was so bad that I'm not gonna tell you what it was. I didn't want anybody to know what happened because it made me feel embarrassed and really like a hypocrite. So eventually, I ended up telling my small group leader, and he said that Jesus doesn't just love parts of me, but He loves all of me. I learned that He loves me no matter how badly I mess up. And it really surprised me, but I felt so relieved. Listen, I get it. None of us wants everybody knowing our business, but I needed somebody to know my whole story, including what I've done, because it's not just a mistake or a memory. It's personal.
All right, guys, we're just gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna read a story from a youth pastor that I heard. Okay, so we had just returned from a retreat and it had been a long bus ride home. I was also excited to get home, shower, and take a nap, but I noticed Maggie still hanging around the front door of the church. Maggie was a junior and had been a longtime member of our youth group. She was super active in the church and actually everything at school too, but involved at church even though her parents didn't really come much. I was surprised she didn't have her car, and even more surprised that she had not bummed a ride from one of her many friends. I offered to drive Maggie home, but she had said that she was waiting on her mom. I didn't have anything to do, so I decided to hang out with her and wait until she got picked up. After an hour of us just talking and waiting, I told Maggie, come on, I'll get you a ride home. I bet you just want to get a shower as badly as I do. I could tell she was anxious about me driving her home though. I wasn't sure why. I felt like I knew her pretty well, and in my mind I wasn't sure about what she could be so anxious about. When I pulled up to Maggie's house, the first thing I noticed was the wheelchair ramp. I didn't remember anyone in her family that used a wheelchair, so I just asked her about it. Immediately, she got really quiet, and I regretted asking about it because of how uncomfortable she became. Maggie then began to tell me that her dad had had a stroke last year and could no longer walk. She told me about how she sold her car, how her mom had become his caregiver, and how hard life was since her dad couldn't work anymore. Maggie shared how embarrassed she was that her dad now needed care. And she didn't like having people over to her house because she didn't want anyone to see him like that. I hadn't known any of this, and I saw Maggie all of the time. I just sat and listened. I had no idea what Maggie had been holding on to, what she was going through, and honestly, after that conversation, I realized I barely knew her story. I had no idea what had been happening with her family. I thought I knew Maggie, but until I pulled into her driveway to drop her off, until I asked that question, until I sat and listened, I really had no idea what was going on in her life. I thought I knew her, but I just saw a glimpse of her story. We often assume that we know the stories of other people. We assume we know them just because we know their name, or what they're good at, or what they're into. Many of us confuse following someone on Instagram with actually knowing their story. The youth pastor in this story felt like he knew Maggie because he followed her on Instagram, was friends with her on Facebook, and knew all the details he thought about her life. We are guilty of assuming we know where our friends live, but until we step into their homes, there are pieces of them that we never are aware of. There's so much more to a person than what we can see on the outside. Everyone has a backstory that we may not even know about. We also have a backstory. Each of us has a story that comes with family dynamics, friends, things that have happened to us, hurts and wounds that we carry, all the good and all the bad things, intertwined into the story of our lives. Most of us know our own stories pretty well. In those moments where you might break down and cry or lash out at a friend in anger, we look for people to understand our stories better in hopes that they can understand us. We say things like, if they only knew what kind of morning I've had. They don't know what I'm dealing with at home. I couldn't sleep last night because I was so worried. I am angry all the time and I'm not sure why I am this angry. This might be true for us, but we forget to think about that step in the moments when our friends lash out in anger or a family member is rude to us. Immediately we get upset with them, but when have we ever taken a moment to sit back and wonder why they might have snapped at us? We have all these things, we have had all these mornings, the morning where you oversleep, spill your coffee down the front of your shirt, have a big stain, and still end up missing the bus. When our days start like that, we can become victims of our own emotions. Giving grace to our friends and our families in those moments is so important because the reality is we never know what they are facing. We rarely try to understand their backstory, and because of this, we miss out on being personal with them and knowing the story of who they are. So over and over in the New Testament, we see Jesus take the time to understand the people that he met. He took the time to have conversations and share meals with people no one else would spend time with. Jesus looked for opportunities to get personal with people, even the people that other people may not want to be around. We've been talking about a man named Zacchaeus and how Jesus walks into his life. Zacchaeus was not exempt to how Jesus impacted the lives of people that he interacted with. Let's check it out and think about what Jesus does to try to get to know Zacchaeus. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. "Zacchaeus," he said, "quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his home in great excitement and joy. That's Luke 19, verses 5 through 6. Jesus invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house and took the time to enter his everyday context. Jesus knew it was risky, but he also knew that there was more to Zacchaeus than what everyone in the town thought they understood about him. But this is Luke 19, verse 7. But the people were displeased. "He has gone to the guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. It clearly didn't go over well with the people in the town. They were all talking about it. The thing about Jesus is he didn't conform to the world's standards. He was looking to connect with Zacchaeus on a greater level. Jesus didn't care what the townspeople were saying. He wanted to step into the place Zacchaeus was most comfortable, his home. Your space, your home, is where you let your guard down. It was the place that Jesus knew he could get close to Zacchaeus and learn more about the man that he was. Where we live is more than our physical address. Understanding our circumstances and situations is the window into who we really are. There's a part of our story that not everyone gets invited into, but here's the thing. Jesus is God. He already knew Zacchaeus' backstory, but Jesus spending time in Zacchaeus' home makes it more personal. He was able to connect with Zacchaeus in a way that the crowd was not willing to. Jesus showed that he wanted to get to know him in a bigger way, to really understand him, and he did it by getting personal and showing up with Zacchaeus. When it comes to understanding our own stories and the stories of other people, we can take a look at the life of Jesus as he sought out ways to get personal with people and understand their stories. Take a look at this verse in Philippians. It's Philippians 2, verses 5 through 8. It says, "You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a servant and was born as a human being. When he appeared in a human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross." Jesus stepped into our world as a human. He walked the earth to step into our story, to experience our world and where we live. Jesus made God personal for us. When you read the story of Jesus, we forget the moments that allow Jesus to understand and connect with our own stories. The same exact moments from your story may not have happened to him, but we can't forget that as a human, Jesus, he was once a baby and went to the bathroom and cried all night, just like we once have. had to deal with siblings, was forgotten by his parents. Seriously, it happened. Experienced loss as one of his best friends died, questioned his purpose, and dealt with people ridiculing him and doubting him. He knows the hurt you carry, the worry you have. He knows the doubt you have in him and the things that keep you up at night. He knows your hopes, your dreams, and your prayers, but he doesn't simply know them. He wants to step into your home, the place that is personal to you, and wants you to know that he doesn't just know your story, he understands it. Here's the truth. It's personal because Jesus understands your story. Let's get real for a second. It can be hard for us to let people into our lives and let them know where we live. It can be easy to hold on to our secrets because we don't want people to judge us. We think in our minds about the responses that other people have to our stories, to our lives, that we hold tight to them. Sometimes we can even feel that our stories are too big to handle ourselves. How can we expect someone else to get it? The beautiful thing is, when we can begin to boldly share our stories with other people, it gives them this sense of permission to share their story with us. So where do we start? Here are a few ideas. For some of you, the first step is to wrestle with the idea and acknowledge that Jesus knows you and all the pieces of you. And that he wants to step into your story, that he can understand your story, your situations, your emotions, and that he loves you. Jesus knew Zacchaeus, all the rumors about his life, how he was an outcast from his community, how people hated him for his job, and how he treated others. Jesus knew that, but also knew that he was more to the story of there was more to the story of Zacchaeus. Jesus wants to step into your life. He wants to get personal with you just as he did with Zacchaeus. For others, your next step is to let someone else into your story. I don't think it should be some random stranger, but someone you already know, that you know has your back, and someone you want to share your story with. This is a huge step, we get it. What if you knew that they already cared about you? That they were there for you and wanted to understand your story more? Why not start letting your small group leader, that adult that sits and listens to you every week, who shows up here and is here to see you, there is no secret. They have their own backstory too. Why not share a little more with your small group? This is a huge step. But what if you could give that gift of allowing someone to go second by being first to share? Talk about your backstory. Allow your group to see who you are and when you are not with them. When you share your backstory, you are opening the door for someone else to have the freedom to share their backstory. Allowing someone to see who you are behind closed doors can allow you to make connections with people you might have never connected with before. And the things that make you feel different could be the thing that connects you with somebody else. Then for others, it's time for you to really understand the story of other people. We have to create a safe space in our lives to get to know others. We often act like the crowd towards Zacchaeus. We see what is on the outside, see his actions, and pass judgment on other people because of it. Maybe it's how someone dresses, their reputation, or how they're from a different culture than you, or simply because you aren't sure what you both have in common. Take this step to get personal with someone and understand their story, to listen and actually hear them for who they are. Our lives can change when we allow people to see who we are, to understand our stories, and even more when we begin to understand the stories of others. Just as Jesus took the time to get into Zacchaeus' home to understand Zacchaeus' backstory, Jesus wants to be invited into our lives. Jesus wants to understand every part of who we are because of our relationship with him as personal. As we head into our week, what does it look like to have other people understand your story and for you to really try and understand theirs? We have the opportunity to get personal, really understand one another, and see how God is moving in the stories in our lives and in other people's lives.
That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel and click the links in the description. And remember, if nobody told you they love you today, remember we do and we always will. Bye!
And
Yeah! Yes! You did it!
oh no, Courtney, I forgot to hit record on this. You have to do this all over.
What if you weren't recording any of ours? That's weird.